Alright, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back and it is time for another Starcraft 2 series. We may have a few of these coming down the pipe lately, as on the channel here we're going to be doing probably some of the Homestory Cup replays. I'm always on the fence about whether to cast something from like a major tournament that all the games were watched really, because chances are some of you have already seen the games, but I'm going to cast some of the group stage games that probably all weren't covered on the mainstream or things like that. Just because I like to cast as much original content as I can, as opposed to casting like a big match which, say, 6 different YouTubers would have already cast, as that seems a bit redundant. I probably, however, will cast like maybe some of the final series or something like that, because at some point it's like, I can get 5 times the views probably if I cast like something that is completely mainstream with like the world's most renowned players. But at the same time, it's like, should I just do something that wasn't necessarily viewed by most people? So let me know in the comments down below whether you want me to cast like the mainstream big names, or whether you want me to stick to the more sort of like fringe original StarCraft 2 content that isn't necessarily casted in other places. And so that was quite an intro. But here we have in the bottom left-hand side of the map, on Eternal Empire, it is Liquid uThermal going to be taking on Triumphant Song Gaming Solar. I know that was a bit of ramble at the start, but the gist of it, let me know what kind of StarCraft 2 content you want to see. I know a lot of you guys like the Alpha Star, and I'll be casting that. You don't have to worry about that. But as far as pro StarCraft goes, let me know who you want to see. If you request a specific player, maybe I'll cast one of their games. I know I have my own personal StarCraft 2 favorites. Great players like, obviously, like, probably more Terran. But then I have some fans of each race. My favorite Zerg, let's see. My favorite Zerg, probably, that's a tough one. Maybe it's Dark. Sort of, I'm a big Sort of fan. I'm still waiting for him to have his big breakout, and he did all right in this Homestory Cup. And then I'd probably have to look at a longer list. Dong Regu, someone I really enjoy. And I could just go through and name all my favorite players, but I won't, because this game's starting to heat on up. We have uThermal with a Reaper starting to poke and prod here at the natural base of Solar. Reaper doing its thing. All the while, uThermal just getting his CC up. We'll pull up that production tab. Speed on the way for Solar. The pretty standard Zerg opening here. You don't want to go too hard into the gas or anything, just enough to really get your speed. You mine a little bit extra gas, because why not, essentially. And then you'll just play the reactive style most likely. Because you probably want to play reactive against someone like uThermal, as uThermal is one of the more radical Terran players, I'll say, in which he's more likely to do something unorthodox than, say, like Hero Marine or, say, Clem, I'd say. And so what that means is that it's probably fair to play the reactive style, to play a little bit extra conservative compared to what you normally would, even. But yeah, we'll just sit back and wait and see. We have got Solar just doing his normal thing. A Fusion Core on the way for uThermal. No surprise there. I've seen a few uThermal games lately, and he seems to really enjoy battle cruisers, which I'm all for. I battle cruiser rush probably 100% of my TvZ games. I kid you not. It's been a while since I did something else. I found what I'm good at, and I stuck to it. And yeah, it'll be a cold day down under before, I switch to doing anything else. But enough of that. This game's starting to heat on up. uThermal making Hellions, going for the BC off the back of a 3cc play. So this is the more economical version of this play. It's not the fastest battle cruiser rush that you can possibly go for, but I completely am fine with this push. I guess one of the differences here is if you wanted the very fast BCs, you'd get an extra gas at your natural, and then you'd get the BC before the third. And that's probably all right. That's what I usually do. But looking at what uThermal does here, it seems he delays the gas in order to get the CC, and then because the BC is slightly delayed, his gas just builds up off the 2 gases. So that's something good for me to pay attention to. Always learning from pro games. All the while Solar, if you look at him, there's a lot to learn from him. We see on the map Eternal Empire, he's gone for Evo Chambers, blocking this attack path up here, which I think is a great move, particularly when you know there's Hellions out on the map. I think that's just a very smart decision. And oh, the Lings can actually sneak through here. That is so slick. I haven't seen that before, but that is actually great, because I'm pretty sure Hellions can't fit through there. So that is actually amazing for the Zerg. uThermal just going for his BC. Double factory follow-up to this. Third base getting onto location 5 minutes into the game. A very nice timing there on that third CC. And then, yeah, Solar just getting 1-1. By that I mean Melee and Carapace. And then Baneling Speed on the way as well. Ladies and gentlemen, just before things heat up too much, as these Hellions move across the map to heat things up, no pun intended, let's try and hit 100 likes on this video. That's about how much gas uThermal has in this game right now, but we see the Hellions charging on in, the Battlecruisers teleported on in, and Solar is going to have to deal with this. The Hellions cooked up a few Lings, they forced the drones away, but so far they're actually just skirmishing with the Queens. uThermal's BC kills the Queen in the main. I know the observing's a little shaky right now, but we see the BC may still be able to get some more damage done. But all in all, I think that was an okay hold for Solar, but it wasn't a bad trade for uThermal. He kept most of his Hellions alive. He's got 7 drones now, so this is suddenly looking a lot sweeter. And then the game's just going to progress from here. Solar's getting up a lair to have an eventual BC counter, which is good, because uThermal is going for an extra battlecruiser here. And we'll see how many he's going to make in total. As long as he doesn't lose this one BC. You cannot lose a BC of your uThermal. Like, BCs are so expensive. And we see uThermal going to move across the map with lots of Hellions because he's meching. Push on into Solar's natural. This may be a little bit overzealous because there's Banelings morphing. There's quite a few Queens and Lings out here for Solar. 31 Lings in all are actually just moving out on the map. They aren't here to defend the Hellions, though. Look at this, though. 31 Lings going to cross the map, heading towards uThermal's natural, or third base. There's Hellions parked at uThermal's third, which I'd like to say is very important, because Zerg will always go for run-by. So if you're a Terran and you make it a habit of ensuring you just passively defend your base. We see uThermal. It's not like he intentionally moved these Hellions here, I don't think. He probably just rallied them here for the most part. Same with his siege tanks. We see all the units bogging up here. And they're just naturally in a good place to defend, even if you're not paying attention there, which is exactly how you want to play Starcraft 2, if you can. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, we see double armory on the way for uThermal. He's still on double factory, or triple factory, but we'll see if he goes for 2 more factories after this. Still making the 1 BC, so that's taking a lot of his money. There's the extra factories. I'm curious if we'll see a Cyclone or 2 or a Thor or 2, because you do need anti-air playing against a Zerg like Solar. So we see turrets going up in each base in case of Corruptors, in case of turrets. Corruptors can give Terrans a lot of grief. Right now we see uThermal move on in with his BC. It floated across the map. It can always just teleport out if it chooses. There we go, Magfield Accelerator on the way as well. Infernal Pre-Igniter. This will be a good portion of uThermal's anti-Corruptor, as you do need that. Otherwise, the Zerg will just make a lot of Corruptors and essentially just say, BCs, no problem. Killing off command centers either, no problem. As that is a big strength of the Corruptors, that they can quickly get out of hand if you don't appropriate the proper response. Hellions moving across the map once again for uThermal. They don't have Blue Flame just yet, but they will in about 30 seconds. After that, Hellions are going to be much better for uThermal, particularly against just a Ling comp like Solar has. We see Banelings even trying to chase down these Hellions. Oh, they actually get pretty good connections there, but for now, this is still just such a massive Hellions that it is giving the Lings of Solar a lot of grief. Solar loses a few drones. However, his mutas are going to be popping on out, and that should be enough to shut this down. uThermal will indeed see the Mutalisk of Solar, and that should be a pretty good warning, or a pretty good position, I feel, for uThermal. Mutas I don't think are that good against mech. They're going to shut down these Hellions, yes, but besides that, I am curious as to what they'll get done. We see Solar, though, taking extreme precaution here to make sure he catches these Hellions. That is a lovely play there, getting those Hellions out and then just popping them off. Like, he had the mutas, which probably would have chased down the Hellions, but he was making sure by having those Lings intercept them. uThermal's about to get up a 4th base, but Solar's playing a pretty good TvZ so far. As far as his overall approach with the Lingbane Muta, I'm still not 100% sold on this style. I feel if the Terran mechs and responds appropriately, the Terran will be in a fine spot. Of course, there's a lot of leeway in StarCraft 2. Things don't necessarily play completely textbook. Although we take a look right now, Cyclone's locking onto the mutas. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 dead mutas. I think one of them got off lucky. So yeah, 3 dead mutas. Good lock-ons there from the Cyclones. Enough anti-air for uThermal as long as he has the Thor or the BCs around to back up those Cyclones. Double turret as well going up, building armor on the way for uThermal. And lots of Banelings on the way for Solar, and I just don't know how I feel about this. Like, uThermal's an almost maxed out Terran. He's 170 supply. Attacking with Ling Bane seems kind of suicidal, I'd say. As mech just trades so well against this kind of Zerg composition, I'm honestly not a fan of this choice from Solar. We'll see if he can make it work, though. uThermal he's got that strong mech army, though. He's going to have a PF. This is going to be tough for Solar to break. Banelings did crash on in and break those depots, but they only got 3 SCVs. Partially, I'd say thanks to that Widow Mine, or maybe not, but yeah, still a good position here for uThermal. Widow Mine's even in position to hit those Lings. A great connection there for uThermal. More mutas on the way for Solar, and I'm just not sold. You can't just keep making mutas against a Terran, but maybe I'm wrong. We see lots of Lings coming in for Solar. uThermal, though, he's got BCs, he's got Cyclones. I'd like to see a few more Hellions for uThermal, seeing as how this is an only Ling composition. A few Hellbats go a long way. I'd actually really like to see some more Hellbats for uThermal. I mean, they just roast and toast Zerglings. So, yeah, please make some more Hellbats, uThermal. Like, even a few goes a long way. Cyclone's not so good against Lings or Banelings. They're alright against mutas, but the Hellions really go a long way against this kind of composition, I feel. The Thor's coming out is kind of cute, but make some Hellions. That's all I can say. Lots of Widow Mines are up for uThermal. They are going to start getting connections on those mutas. So one connection, another connection. The turret doing work. The mutas, though, do help break down that supply depot to let the Lings in. If uThermal had some Hellions, he could have an easier time responding to this. But instead, he's just going for a big attack into the base of Solar. I don't know how I feel about that. Good Cyclone splits. The BC is in the sky, going to help zone out the mutas still. And the BCs will require a good response from Solar. But uThermal will be taking some damage back home, it would seem. But maybe not too much. So this is a very odd composition from uThermal and an odd response from Solar. BC is going to Yamato all the mutas. A great choice there from uThermal. Just dump those Yamatos whenever you can. That is guaranteed muta kills, and there is not enough mutas to stand against these 4 BCs, I feel. I mean, if you get enough mutas, yeah, they can do it. But this is 5 or 4 battle cruisers here right now. They will, at the very least, trade well against these mutas. Injured one teleports out. The rest decide to join that BC just to get out there safely. And as we take a look right here, we see uThermal still in a pretty good spot. Throwing up more and more CCs. Going to be floating over to take a 5th base. That is good for uThermal. I'm honestly going to keep hammering away on it. Make some Hellbats. Hellbats are kind of, like, Hellbat pushes are countered by Banelings, but overall, Hellbats will trade efficiently against a Lingbane composition, just as long as you add in a few. I guess uThermal, though, thinking of bigger things, worried about the mutas, worried about the Banelings, so he's making lots of Thors. This base here, I'm not sure if it'll stay alive with the Widow Mines, though. It should. Look at that! One Hellbat chases away all them Lings and mutas. A little bit of an over-exaggeration there, but... And I sound like a broken record. However, I am still really liking how uThermal's playing this game. Not so much how Solar's playing it. I mean, he's made so many mutas, and that's because he has to have that many mutas if he wants to engage the BCs ever. But as long as uThermal repairs these BCs, if he keeps upgrading them, they're just going to get better and better, whereas Solar will eventually have to go into Corruptors. And I honestly just am not sold on the mutas. Like, think about how much damage the mutas have got done this game. The answer is not a lot, I'll say. So we have a Zerg player who's pretty much on an equal economy as a Terran. Their banks are relatively close. Solar has a decent mineral bank, but he's committed to all this in mutas, and they haven't got that much damage done. They haven't taken great trades or anything like that, and I'm overall just in the anti-mutalist camp. I love classic TvZ, but for a Zerg, I don't see mutas working out that well that often. So we finally do see Solar adding some Corruptors in. We'll see if he's just going to trade these mutas off or not. Widow Mines, though, hitting a muta. Great choice there by uThermal to keep making these Widow Mines. uThermal is out on the map, though. He's got quite an army. Is it enough of an army in this choke point? I'm willing to bet it is. Lots of BCs getting Yamato cannons off on the mutas of Solar. The Evo Chamber's gonna die there. The BCs are still up in the sky. 14 Corruptors are on the way for Solar, which is an absolute must. He's got Banelings crashing forward and hitting these Thors. But for now, the mutas fighting these BCs is not going to be enough. uThermal teleports out the injured one, and all of a sudden these mutas are just going to die like it's nothing. They got essentially nothing done, and now they are dead. That is the sad story of a mutalist life. uThermal teleports out the injured BCs. The BCs are 1,000 times worse against Corruptors than they are against mutas. So uThermal will have to start making something else to help counteract these Corruptors. Perhaps more Thors or even some Cyclones. I am a fan of Cyclones against Corruptors since they deal so much damage. Right now we see uThermal as well repairing his BCs in case these Corruptors come forward. The BCs themselves can't fight off these Corruptors, but with all the turrets on the ground, with the Thors on the ground, they definitely can stand tall. uThermal, I want to see him repair each and every single one of these BCs. As repairing, I'm not sure on the exact number, but it's like 7 times cheaper than building a new unit or something. We see Solar coming in for a big attack. This seems like a bit of a questionable one. All these Banelings rolling forward. I mean, it'll kill the PF. Yes, most of these Banes, though, will be cleaned on up. The Corruptors do come on in. The BCs dump Yamato cannons. Does uThermal just teleport these BCs away? As when BCs can't stand against Corruptors, they gotta go somewhere. And where are they the best right now? I'd honestly just teleport them to a random base for uThermal. It seems, though, that the Terran's production has started to lack. These Thors are getting tied up by Lings and Ultras. Hellbat's not in position to help the Thors against the Lings. Looks like some more Thors are coming on in. One BC teleports across the map there. Thors have been made, which are okay against Ultras, but uThermal has lost bases now. This is looking pretty darn good for Solar. He's making more and more Banes. Just more Banes, making lots of Lings still. He's staying in that camp. The one BC is harassing a little bit, but I feel as if uThermal had teleported all these BCs right away. It would have pulled Solar back more. As the BCs, once all the Banelings were dead here, didn't really do too much. I feel like I'm being extra critical this commentary, and that's really where my commentary is founded in, is more critical analyzation. But both these players are still playing an amazing StarCraft 2 game. I can't overstate that enough. More Thors on the way for uThermal. This feels like a bit of a dire situation for the Terran, though. Thors, no matter how fast you make them, no matter how many you make, it seems they don't trade that well against Ultra Ling Bane. As the Ultra Ling Bane, the Zerg just amasses so much. You need lots of Hellbats, lots of Widow Mines. But even then, the Zerg can just kind of swarm over and over again. Like, this is 4 Thors. They will not stand against this many Ultras, I feel. This base, not a PF, so it's not going to help out. More Thors are coming out. They're in the wrong mode, though, so they are just hitting the Overseers, hitting the Corruptors, which is not what uThermal wants. He's going to have to target those down on the Ultras. And they do okay against the Ultras. But once the Lings and Banes start rolling in, it's really starting to show how Solar does not care. The Banes, they're just gonna hit the Thors. The Thors will end up falling, though, and this is looking like a pretty good engagement here for Solar. The CC falls, the Thors being repaired, but at this point Solar has just snowballed. His economy is still looking pristine. He's morphing Banelings in the face of uThermal, and uThermal played a very good game, but at some point it just went wrong. I know I was kind of ragging Solar for this entirety of match number 1, but I'm not sure where that game really went wrong for uThermal. I guess it was just the BCs getting killed off and doing nothing, and then just, I don't know, maybe not having enough tanks or something to deal with the Lingbane composition. I'm not sure what else he should have done there. I guess Solar, just with his persistent attacks, wore down the Terran. However, fear not, this is a best of 3. As I said before, this is a best of 3, so do not fear. uThermal fans, uThermal can still bring this back. I'm glad I casted this game because Solar and uThermal really both have unique styles. I can point out a lot of how they don't play standard, and I feel like that's where some of my criticism comes from. But they're both incredibly good StarCraft 2 players. I would not have expected Solar to be able to wear down uThermal just like Ling Bane, but he did it, just Ling Bane Corruptor, essentially. Then eventually the Ultras came in and cleaned house, and uThermal, he just had too much supply tied up in production, wasn't consolidated enough or something like that. I guess maybe it went wrong for uThermal when he had that attack that kind of got cleaned up. But yeah, imagine in that last game if when uThermal's taking that fight, as the Corruptors are coming in, right? Because the Corruptors really in a fight, their main purpose is just to kill the BCs. Imagine if the BCs just teleport across the map, and then all of a sudden it's 5 BCs. That's pretty much a guaranteed dead base for Solar. The Corruptors have to go back, his attention from the attack gets pulled away. Or even if uThermal teleports like 2 BCs to 2 bases or something, that really puts Solar on the back foot, having to defend. Of course, it might not have played out that way. I don't know what uThermal necessarily should have done that game. I don't think he necessarily did something super wrong. I don't think Solar necessarily did something super wrong. But I know something that would be wrong. That would be not hitting the like button. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, this is a best of 3, so we get a little bit of extra Starcraft 2. And breaking 100 likes to show that you guys enjoy it would be awesome. I thought that one was pretty smooth. I'm going to admit that to myself. Now, we take a look here. Solar actually going for a very quick third hatchery. A sub 2-minute third hatchery is kind of just nuts for a Zerg. It means the third goes down before any queens, before any lings. Absolutely before speed gets started. uThermal, though, will scout this out and be like, oh, you're being a super greedy boy. And then we'll see how uThermal's going to respond to this. He's a bit of a wacky Terran, so I'm excited to see. Yeah, let's take a look here. Just standard factory play. He's actually got the Reaper out. There it is, hitting the natural Solar now, forcing the Lings to micro. And yeah, Solar and uThermal are both incredibly good players. They have a bit of a rivalry going on for those of you that are unaware too. It reminds me of one cup. uThermal and Solar played in the Taco Cup, organized by Jim Rising. And I think they met in the finals of like 3 of them, and I think Solar generally won. But I still think uThermal and Solar is always a great StarCraft 2 match. Starport on the way for uThermal again. I'm curious if it's going to be the BCs once more. That seems to be his bread and butter as of late. And then, yeah, just continuing on here. Speed on the way for Solar. Couple of queens. Doing the standard Zerg thing on the most un-Zen map in the ladder pool. Well, except for maybe Golden Wall. But Zen is not very Zen because it is odd, and oddness is not your friend in StarCraft 2. It has given some good games, though, like the Proxy Reapers that I saw from Tasia one game, hitting this location, then the barracks can just wall off here, so that's something odd to keep in mind. And then, yeah, Banshee on the way here for uThermal. So actually not going for the BCs this game, which is good. Variety is the spice of life. If just doing the same strategy over and over again worked at the pro level, pros would certainly do it. We take a look now. The uThermal, oh my gosh, just dives in with his Hellions. He kills 6, 7 drones. Wow, I didn't even see that coming. But that was 7 drones for 4 Hellions in the Reaper. I'd say that's an okay trade for uThermal at this stage in the game, seeing as how he's just churning out more and more Hellions. Of course, this is at the expense of his 3rd CC timing, however. So that is something to keep in mind. So it was actually a bit of a questionable trade because Solar does have such 3 hatchery production already. So we'll see how quick he's going to recover from those drone losses. What uThermal is going to do in the rest of the game, because you do have to keep in mind uThermal delayed his 3rd CC, so he could make more Hellions because he made 8 instead of the standard 4 or 6. So I'm actually not sure what the perfect number is for a Terran to go for as far as drones, what you need to really justify sacrificing the 4 Hellions. I mean, if this was just like a bio follow-up or something, I'd say 7's fine, but if you're actually committing to the extra Hellions to go for something like that, because uThermal needed the more Hellions to hold on after that. Oh, and speak of the devil, uThermal is going for a bio follow-up. Pardon me, I'm talking out of my butt here. But yeah, I feel like if uThermal didn't make those extra 2 Hellions, it would have been easier to justify the 4 Hellion for 7 drone trade. The Banshee as well gets a couple of drones, but nothing too major. uThermal has made 2 Banshees. Where is the other Banshee? There she is, moving across the map. 3rd CC is going to be moving over for uThermal, just moving over before it's even in orbital. And I guess uThermal made these Hellions to help just defend, or maybe throw Solar off a little bit, as he did play mech in the last game. Solar doesn't necessarily know that this is a bio play. He does not know. I wouldn't be surprised if Solar's expecting mech. We see uThermal come on in with one of his Banshees, just trying to poke Solar wherever he can. get as many drones as he can. This Banshee going to move towards the back of the natural base. Going to get one drone over Solar's Queen response in this situation. Very good. uThermal, going to lose one of the Banshees there, I feel. No, it just escapes. uThermal's on 3 CC. Solar is on 3 hatchery, heading towards the 4th base. We'll see if uThermal is going to make a good attack happen, because he's actually committing to a very, very odd play here. Minimal add-ons for uThermal, making just a ton of Marines off 7 barracks this game already. I didn't expect there to be 7 barracks before the 7-minute mark, but somehow uThermal has swung that. I'm guessing by not getting the gases at his natural, and he's just going to be going for a big old Marine attack. Now, I actually love this choice from uThermal. This is such an odd way to change it up, but I dig it. And then uThermal just going to cross the map here. Combat shield is the only concern I have right now. If uThermal doesn't have combat shield before a fight happens, the Marines will be a lot worse, so he does need to be careful. And oh, the tanks are sieging up, but Solar's going to jump on top of this. The Marines without their combat shield, I don't know how well they'll stand. Solar also finishes up as 1-1, so mass Marine for uThermal. Not going to cut it in this situation. Unloading in the main base as well is Solar with a lot of lings. Gonna get cleaned up though, so that's not bad for uThermal. However, I am a little bit concerned for the Terran though, that he's gonna be in a situation which he just has a bunch of Marines against a Zerg who's making banelings. And those of you that have been around the Starcraft 2 block knows exactly how that works out for the Terran player. Unless they have godlike splits, but the more Banes and the more Marines there is, the worse it is for the Terran when you're just trying to split. And so suddenly we're looking at a situation which uThermal is looking to push on in with 38 Marines against a ton of Lings, a handful of Banelings. This seems like a pretty good ratio for uThermal as long as he trades correctly, and he's doing a good job, I'd say. He's just got to make sure he splits these Marines as soon as he's on creep. I feel stimming forward right now is a little bit risky. I think he should be pre-splitting already. There we go, the pre-split happens. Banelings rolling forward, uThermal doing a very good job splitting. Actually trading out quite well here against Solar, nullifying the Banelings. He's stepping further and further on creep, though. Banelings are about to finish up. Looks like these Marines are going to get surrounded. The Medivacs are healing those Marines as well as they can. It is 0-0 Marines against the 1-1 of Solar. The Queen's going to be very tanky with their +1 Carapace and are actually doing a great job here. And oh, Banelings starting to roll forward. Can uThermal focus them all down? No, he can't. He hits nasty Baneling connections into a GG. uThermal just taps out there. If he had avoided those Banelings or had he been able to split, then I think maybe that could have kept going. But in the end, no, just those Banelings, they just got the connection, and uThermal went into the GG there. Yeah, we see he's kind of backed into a corner. Then eventually the couple of Banelings come on in, and he just can't split in time and eats a connection. Whereas if he had nullified those Banes, maybe that push would have worked. But yeah, we see right here, it's just, oh, bing, bang, boom, oh, a lot of dead Marines, lights out for uThermal. And GG, Solar takes the 2-0, a great TvZ series, a really unique one. I am glad I casted it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this commentary, make sure to slap that like button, hit that subscribe button if you aren't already, join the Discord if you want to hang out, and big thanks to those of you who happen to support the channel via the memberships program. I'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. This has been LaughNgamez.